Hello and welcome back. In this section we're going to start to look at specific applications of charts and graphs in Microsoft Excel 2010. We're going to pick up some more tools and techniques as we go along, and we're going to start with showing trends in Excel 2010 charts and graphs. Now the figures that you see on the worksheet in front of you are the sales of iPods over the period 2002 to 2010. We have the year number on the left, and we have the 4 quarters for each of the years and a total sale for the year. And what I'm going to do first of all is to just plot total sales against year to show the trend in sales over that period. Now if I just select year and total, you would think that I could do a very simple chart automatically from that. The problem is that if I did that, because both of these columns have headings, they'll both be interpreted as variables that I want to plot. And of course the fiscal year is effectively my independent variable. So the way to get the chart that I want is to actually remove this fiscal year heading here. So I'm going to just delete that, reselect year and total, and then if I press Alt and F1 to get my default chart type, I actually get straight away a pretty good representation of how those sales have varied over the period. So let's go through the steps that we've looked at so far and do some improvements straight away to this particular chart. Let's start by making it a little bit bigger. Now if I wanted to change the chart type, I could do that very simply using the type group here. We have the change chart type button, which gives us access to the full gallery of chart types. I'm going to stick with a column chart on this occasion, but I'm going to look at some other options a little bit later on, so we'll stick with that as it is for now. We are only dealing effectively with one figure for each of the years, which is a total figure, so we don't need to worry about choosing one of these different sort of composite types of chart. Just a straightforward column chart will do the job here. So when we talk about a chart that shows trend, we're showing trend almost always. This is a trend over time, and the time here is represented by the year number on the horizontal axis. The sales are basically going up to figures in the tens of millions. I think you could reasonably argue that on the horizontal axis the year number here pretty much explains itself, although we are going to add something there to just help the user in a little while. The total number of sales probably needs a little bit of explanation, and somebody looking at this chart from cold would have no idea what these bars represent, so we do need to put some sort of title on here to explain things. So let's now choose our chart layout. Now if we look at the gallery of available layouts for this type of column chart, we have a number of options. I really don't believe we need a legend here, as we have a simple variable, basically the number of sales over the course of the years, and it's questionable that we really do need a label on the horizontal axis, because we can put something in the title to indicate that these are years, although I think anybody using this chart will deduce that they're years anyway. So I think probably the ideal choice here would be this one, where we have a title, a label on the vertical axis, and that's about it. So let's choose that option and see how we get on. So we have a chart title, we have an axis title that we'll obviously need to correct. We've actually got a data label switched on here, so if I just select that, go to the layout table and switch off data labels, that sorted that problem out, and we now have a chart with just the bare information that we need. So we've got our layout. Let's now try chart style. Again, click on the More button to look at the gallery of chart styles, and let's choose this one. We have nice 3D look and feel to that chart, and it's very straightforward because we're only really measuring one thing, the number of sales. So let's go with that type for now. Okay, we've dealt with all of the design elements for the moment. Let's move on now to layout. And starting from the left, chart title. Well, we've got a chart title. Let's go in and edit it. We can just click inside the title until we get the dashed line. Let's think that's probably a suitable title, and if I wanted to, I could now straight away format that title for presentational point of view. I'm going to leave that for just a moment though, because I want to get the axis title sorted out as well. So let's now look at axis titles. We're not going to use an axis title on the horizontal axis. I don't think it's necessary because the fact that these are years is now implicit in the title of the chart. If I click now within the area of the vertical axis title, I can once again get the dashed line, and I can start typing in there. I'm going to make my title iPods Sold. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that as it is for the moment. I may come back and reformat it a little bit later on. Now, a combination of what's in the title, what's on the title on the vertical axis, and the numbers that appear on the chart anyway, I think is enough to make this chart completely understandable by somebody coming at it from cold. So let's just run through the other things we might want to set. Legend is one. I don't think we need a legend. Data labels, as you may recall, put labels on the bars. Again, I don't think we need them on this occasion. And I'm not going to include the data table within the chart. But when it comes to axes, I am going to make a change on the primary vertical axis. Because, as you may remember earlier on, we talked about working with very large numbers, and we now have a first case of working with very large numbers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that the axis in this case is numbered in millions. I'm going to choose the option Show Axis in Millions and see what happens. Now what happens in fact is that we have the word millions added here to indicate that the scale used here is in fact millions of units. So we're going from 0 millions of units to 60 millions of units. Now I said I might come back to reformat this axis title. I'm going to actually do that because I don't particularly like these things lying on their side, and I'm going to make this horizontal. One of the reasons I'm going to do that on this occasion is that this particular chart, if you look at the plot area itself, is not particularly crowded. The message about these sales will be clear if I squash the whole thing up a little bit more. There's a huge amount of information on here. If there were a lot more information in the chart itself, I might be reluctant to squash it up. But on this occasion, I don't have a problem with that. So I'm going to right click here. I'm going to say Format Axis Title. And then I'm going to go to Alignment. And I'm going to say make it completely horizontal, not stacked but horizontal. Click on Close, and as you can see it now reads iPods Sold. As I said, the plot area is a little bit more squashed up than it was, but very readable, and I made more significant improvements to this chart. So finally, let me review my grid lines. The grid lines actually in this case are perfectly suitable as they are. I'm not really intending to use this chart for people to read off accurately the height of the bars. Remember, if this is printed, you won't have the option of these tips popping up here to give the actual height of each bar. So really I'm giving fairly broad information about how these sales have gone. So I'm going to leave the grid lines as they are with just this major 10 million sale horizontal grid line. No need for vertical grid lines at all. And finally I'm going to format the chart area itself. So right click, select format chart area, and I think I'm going to use a gradient fill here. Let's try that one. That looks okay. Close. And there we are. I've got a pretty smart looking chart there showing the information about sales of iPods. Not only can I use that now as a presentation, I could perhaps put it in a PowerPoint presentation, transfer it to a Word document or put it on a website or whatever, but I've got a pretty smart looking chart here to use when I present these figures to other people for whatever purpose I'm using these figures. Okay, that's a basic example of showing trend over time. In the next section we're going to look at some more advanced techniques that we can use to show trends in some more complex situations. I'll see you then.